What's going on, y'all? Uh, wow, that's kind of funny. Go live on YouTube gives me some kind of weird warning about being private. Give this a second for people to start showing up. Hopefully, some of you do. This is an oddball time for us. What's going on, Dylan? Is this thing gonna work? There, it's working. All right, let me get seated here, and then we can start today's topic. So, again, in our continuing series, we're gonna try to do lives most Mondays. Again, not every Monday, but a lot of Mondays you will find me right here doing a live. Typically, we've done these in the evening, but I've got some crap to do this evening, and I thought, you know what, it's probably better to mix it up anyway because some people maybe couldn't be around the evening ones and could be around the daytime ones, and vice versa. So here we are, and it is so early for us to do this. That's right. But like I said, we got to kind of mix it up a little bit. So today, I thought a good topic of discussion for our Monday lives would be reptile shows. And with the reptile show topic, I want to kind of cover everything with you guys, and I want some feedback from y'all. Because feedback from you guys to me is really important as a vendor. On the rare occasion I do get to vend, that it tells me some things that I have to think of and that I need to do better, and maybe that I can improve upon to at the end of the day improve upon my sales. And it is all about sales, right? I mean, if you're a vendor at a reptile show, you have to sell stuff, correct? And I also want to come at it from the customer standpoint. I want to know what you guys look for, or what your experience is if you're also a vendor, and things of that nature. Because I think it is very important to for a vendor to be on point to help his sales. Because even if you make the world's best animals and you make high quality animals and you do just a great job on the front end, you get that back end of sales, then it's going to be very hard if you can't, if you don't have a good display, or if you can't connect with people, things of that nature. So, I'm also going to share with you, for those of you that are just here to see snakes, I will definitely share with you some of the things that I have picked up at shows over the years as a customer. I can't share with you what I sold at shows because obviously I no longer have it. And actually, I've been to Tinley Park. I went to Tinley Park, I want to say it was roughly 3 years ago, in an October show, and I went as part of the reptile shop that I own, Manhattan Reptile World. Thank you, Genetic Hunters. I really appreciate that. That truly does help us a ton. So my last show, Chris, that was actually Denver. It was Denver in, I want to say, October as well. And because we've been so sold out due to Patreon, I actually vended for somebody else. So I went dressed like this. We carried our clothing line, everything else like that, and we carried somebody else's animals. We carried their signage, so it was very well advertised that it wasn't our animals. We told everybody it wasn't our animals, but we carried animals from a vendor or a breeder that we trust. I wouldn't just do that for anybody. We actually were carrying animals from tall grass reptiles. And if you guys have ever worked with tall grass, them are some top-notch dudes. So that's why we did it. Dodge City. You know what? I really want to go to Dodge City again soon. Dodge City's been on my bucket list to go to and just spend a day. And it's not that far. Like, it's right down the road. To spend a day going to some of the Wild West history and museums that are there. And yeah, I was just talking about going to Denver. We've been to Repticon the last few years in Denver. 1 year selling for me, and then last year selling for a friend. So, Samantha, I'm sure you will be very happy with the animal you've got. And we have done Kansas City, Missouri a lot, but we just been sold out. We haven't had to go to KC this year. We did last year a couple times. So when we go to shows, when will you come back to Tinley? First, I have to have animals. I honestly think the next time I go to Tinley, I'm just going to be going to film and go and have fun. Like, we sell out pretty fast, which is a great problem to have. The problem is I do like going to shows. I like vending with shows. I feel it's important to get out there. And so we're going to definitely try to at least do that. And yeah, Chris will do it. I mean, we go to Denver frequently. We love going to the Denver show. We've got friends there around Denver we've made over the years going to that show. And it's fun for us to go and get to connect with some people like, Colorado Cold Bloods is always there. Skull Crushing Exotics is always there. So we've got some friends that make it that we'd definitely like to go see when we go to Denver. So uh, let's talk about vending at shows. First of all, as a customer, I want to know what you look at when you go up to a table. Like when you go to the show, what are you looking for? Like what do you see that attracts you to a table? That's what I want to know. I'm gonna open my Coke while I wait for those comments to come in. Never been to one. Okay, so willingness to answer questions, that's engaging, right? A certain snake, yeah, absolutely. Clean and tidy. Pomona's a long way away from me, but if you go there, I guarantee you can find Brian Cusco. He's awesome. So, okay, now I saw somebody say variety, and I've seen presentation and a lot of quality and health. Now, when it comes to variety, are you just talking about like, a good banner or art? See, I was curious if that made a difference. Clean, clear display cases. What's the feeling on deli cups? What do you guys think about people who put animals in deli cups and set the deli cups there? Do you think that's going to detract you from purchasing deli cups versus the acrylic displays? Hate it? Hate the deli cups? Okay. Okay. No room for them for the deli cups. Right. And a lot, I mean, I'm assuming adequate size. And Zachary, you can check a lot of our videos on Spider. We absolutely love Spider. So, okay. So, wait, the acrylic, I think the acrylic are nicer, but the acrylic takes a lot of investment. I mean, we use acrylic, but I also know a lot of people make good stuff in deli cups. And I've heard people say sometimes they like the deli cups better because, like, when I work with an acrylic cage, if I sell an animal, then I've got to open the acrylic cage, take the animal out, close it back up. I like to write sold on there. That's one of my little tricks is writing sold on there and leaving it empty so it looks like, things are leaving the table, right? And I see a little bit of allergies today. So then I have to take it, bag it up, and do whatever, and move it on down the road, and it takes some time, right? Where the deli cups, they buy the deli cup, you pick up the deli cup, you hand the deli cup, and they get to move on. So I've heard people say they prefer selling the deli cups just because the ease of it's packaged. You put it in there, you sell it, and it goes. So I was curious, and that will happen. In deli cups, there is an added risk of theft. Though that is so easy to defeat. So, like, what you do to defeat the theft, if you're going to use deli cups, is like some type of netting is what we would put over it, where they can't go up and under it very easy from this side, but from the side you're on, it's easy to grab and hand it over. So it's really not a big it's easy to yeah, the mesh, exactly what I'm talking about, genetic hunters, and then it makes it very hard for people to steal it. So it's kind of like, you know, and healthy snakes. I agree. Healthy snakes is very, very important. But what I'm curious about is if the person at the table isn't properly engaged, and I heard people say knowledge of the animal, answering questions, those kind of things. Uh, oh, balls of paradise. I understand, man. Life does happen, and take care of yourself. And I hope hopefully you're not injured too badly if you're able to be on here. So I'm hoping that you're okay. That's terrible. I hate car accidents. I've worked a lot of them over the years. Car accidents are no fun. So, uh, Reptile can't fit. Don't try cramming it in there. I would say a lot of vendors have been a little bit guilty of cramming in something into an acrylic because it's a short term and they'll ball up and hide for a while anyway, so it's not going to really bother them. Obviously, you want to get them out and let them be back in their environment as soon as you can. One of my pet peeves is people who come back from a show and leave the animals in cups or in the display case for a couple days so they move them over. I want to get them home because they've been already in there for several days and get them put up that night, even if it's a long, long night. I agree. I think contact is very, very important. For me, I usually go to a show, in activity level. Yeah. I'm glad it was just a car, man. Uh, it can stress them if they're left in there too long, and it's always going to stress them going to a show. To think that taking a snake to a show doesn't stress them would be I mean, it does. I'm taking them out of their house. I'm packaging them up. I'm then putting them in a display box. Usually, we transport them in those acrylic cases. And then you take them where you're going. You set them up and you sell them. If it's a 2 day show, you're doing that for 2 days. And then you're turning around, you're coming back, and you're moving them. That is going to be stressful. It's about as stressful as shipping one. Shipping them, you put them in a bag. It's basically the same thing. And congratulations on the eggs, Keith. I know you've been working hard on that. So like it's there is a lot of stress for those snakes in there. And then you can feel their. I agree. I want to feel that they know what they're talking, but I also that some people are shy. Like there are people that I buy from that when you talk to them, if you don't know them very well, you probably aren't necessarily going to feel that passion from them. It's because of their personality. But I know them well enough. I know it's there. I know it just doesn't always come out. Dragontown Reptiles was good. And what did he do that made it good? Like, what did he do that made you go, man, this was a great experience? And I don't get people who are selling that have an attitude problem. Like, that just blows my mind. I hear you, Red Knob. I hate shipping. And I can't even do it this time of year, so boom. But as soon as it warms up, I've got like a whole bunch of boxes to send out that are waiting on weather. Love Kansas. It just depends. Or is it Kyrian? It just depends, you know, on how many animals I have. That's what's going to depend on. This last year it was literally two. I went to two shows, and one of those wasn't my animals, and one of those was just simply because, like, it was in my backyard, and I took one table, one display, and it had like half the display was full of normals. I mean, it was, I was there because I was a promoter of the show, and like, it was the Cons of Reptile show, and I felt like I needed to be there. Had it been Kansas City, I wouldn't have gone. Had it been anything farther than Manhattan, I wouldn't have gone. Oh, the one in the far back right now, that's an off. Well, no, I want to say off brand. It's one I picked up to use. I think it's Animal Plastics, but I'll tell you what, it's good. It works. But these TGR FB10s I prefer a lot better, and these down here with the hanging TGRs I prefer better. But sometimes the deal's too good to pass up, and I need more baby racks. Pairings is good, huh? So I usually take my computer because what I do with my computer is it does two things. I have my pairings on there just in case I can't remember and somebody asks. We have our serial numbers on there, everything else, and then we also just because I'm a shameless self promoter on a loop, we run our videos in the background. So I'd say most reptile shows are about $100 a table on average. You get a discount, you buy more. Uh, listen, oh, that's a good idea. The picture book of the parents. Now, that's something is awesome. I probably wouldn't let random customer watch while I go to the bathroom, but that's kind of funny. But I like the picture book idea. That's a great idea. And that's something I haven't done. Like I thought we were doing pretty good by having the birthing videos to kind of put us a leg up, but that is smart. And when golden constrictors, that is going to be over a long period of time, probably over the next 6 to 9 months, because I am a firm believer that stressing my females now is going to would really screw up my breeding season. So what will happen is we have some empty racks we're going to place over there and have them ready, and then we will move the snakes over as a lay, and then at some point we'll just move the males over. Probably once we get several of the females over, and it's ready to go. As far as what I would say is a deterrent from dealing with the vendor, for me, it's a vendor sitting on their cell phone. They're sitting there on their cell phone, and I've noticed this several times. I'm just not going to deal with them. If I have to engage them now, if they're talking to other people and they're up and they're working, I get that. But if they're just sitting there and they're on their phone, and I walk up to the table and I look for a second at a few things, and they don't acknowledge me, you know, I'm out. That for me is a big deterrent, because if you don't care enough about your animals to want to sell them to me, then why the hell am I there? You know. Um, Now I would say I get less of that than I used to, and I think that part of that is YouTube's fault. But you know, it's still. I used to get that quite a bit. Like I was shocked at reptile shows how frequent that was. You know, I would say five isn't really diving in. Diving in would be 50 or plus. Going slow is probably good, but you can go slow with 10 to 12 snakes. I think. Right. Just that. Hey, if there's anything you want to see, let me know. I've said that to a ton of people. Because I don't know what to really look for. If there's something you're interested in, please let me know. If you have any questions, I'm right here. Something like that would be would be great. And so proof of parents, that would be good. And see, we keep that and we give the receipts for the name of the parents and their everything on it. And then we have the videos. But man, that picture book right there at the table, that is pretty smart. That's pretty. I mean, I may end up having to steal that eventually. So that's intelligent. I really like that idea. So that's a turn off for me on vendors. Obviously, animals that don't look healthy, although I don't see that as much. I mean, I have a few times, and we don't sell racks. Snake Man, we don't. You know, we don't. I mean, I guess are you asked if I ever sold used racks? I sold one. That was a home built pile of crap, and it's already having escapes on it. Told the guy, a friend of mine, I'm like, I wouldn't buy this. And I sold it to him for helping us move it out and helping us move these in. So for help set up and work in a day's labor, he took the old one. But yeah. Uh, and price too. How important is price? I mean, obviously price is important. And anybody that says, I don't look at price at all is probably not being overly honest with themselves. So but I don't always look for the cheapest. I mean, everybody wants a deal, right? And you're at a show, you're going to get a lot better deal than you would say in a retail store. But what is like? How important is that price? Is $20 different? It's going to make the deal, uh, or is it the seller can overcome if he's attentive and a good seller? It's a name you trust. Can he overcome that $20 difference for you or $25 difference if the animal's healthy and looks good? Red flags is too low. And yeah, Smash but Ultramil, they're a cool snake. The darkness, I gotta pair her up here in a few minutes. We'll pull her out when the time comes. Actually, Dave, we'll probably do our pairings while we're on Patreon, so I will show her there because today what I want to show some of the things we bought at shows. The animal's amazing. I'll pay more. So price, I would say, is important, but it's not the overall deciding factor. The actual vendor and the animal are more of a deciding factor. So Sup Kentuckian. Impulse buying, I love it. I love impulse buying as a vendor. Now, I think, and that brings us to our next point that I want to know from you guys. When you go to a show as a purchaser, I know when I go as a purchaser, I'll give you an example. Let me pull this guy out. Where are you? You're right here. This was a snake, probably one of the most expensive snakes I bought at the time I bought him. Of course, this is Hades. He is our Axanthic spider male, one of our first breeding Axanthic males right there. And I bought him at a show. And the deal was like, I'd seen him at the Manhattan show years and years and years ago, and I wanted him, and I didn't pull the trigger. But I kept talking to the vendor, and I kept talking to the vendor. And then we reached a deal, and I went and picked him up at the Kansas City show. So I went to the Kansas City show knowing I was buying this exact snake. Um, it came from Tall Grass Reptiles. That's where it came from. One of my first snakes I purchased from them, starting a lifelong of buying their crap. I shouldn't say crap, buying their animals. It's really high quality, but I buy from them frequently. And I'll give you a few more examples. But this is a snake that I knew I wanted. And I went there specifically to buy this. So what I'll typically do is I frequently will go in with a mindset throughout the season of I want boom, 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 boom. And that's what I'm going to look for. And I try to stay away from impulse buying things. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I try to stay away from it. Just because of the fact that it doesn't fit my plans or it doesn't fit what I want to do. And an impulse usually leads to multiple impulses because I have to find something else to go with it now. things of that nature. And this snake was actually an impulse buy because I was just looking at the show I went to and he was there. I started thinking about how he would jumpstart my Xanthic projects, how many things I could do with him. So it was something I really thought about, literally long enough to walk away from it, keep in contact, and then buy it, I think 2 weeks later at a different show that they kept it for me till. So, like, there's some of that goes in, right? And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing an impulse buy. As a vendor, I love an impulse buy because impulse buys are usually done without thoughts of finance, which is great when you're a seller, right? And, I mean, so I love an impulse purchase. Now, I don't love an impulse purchase depending on what I work with. Working with ball pythons, anybody can handle one of these. They're not hard to keep. They don't require a lot of size. You know, they don't require too much special skill. It can be pretty easy to learn how to keep one of these. So I don't mind an impulse buy on these. Now, if I was a retic dealer and I was dealing reticulated pythons, it'd be a little different. I'd feel bad about impulse selling somebody a baby snake that's going to get, 15, 18 feet. And these, I don't know what their current market value is right now. Probably around, I don't know, 250 or so, 300 for a baby. Somewhere like around that would be my guess. So, and reptiles and rodents, Andrew, don't get into VTPI. Get into SK. SK is where it's at, baby. Actually, both lines are really good. I just prefer SK because the first one I came across was SK. But that's what I work with. It is hard to get a payment plan at a show. That I will give you. Let me throw this guy back in here. It is very hard. So, aren't you supposed to be cleaning? No, I'm supposed to be doing just this. I must not be letting the snakes go. There we go. There we are. And I think you can. I like SK, Nathan, but I think you can do both. It can be very, very nice. I think it's down to the breeder and how you selectively choose your animals. Yeah, I always am. I'm always working towards. There's a bunch. Like I can't say I'm working just towards this one. I've got about 15 different goals in mind right now of different projects I want to get to the end of, and then it'll start a new project and a new project and a new project. So we're constantly working towards new goals. But that was a show animal that we bought, and it was about working the project. Got one? Oh, a live one? Yeah, I don't want to be the reason you skip work, but I'm glad that you're here. And thank you. And some of the other ones we picked up at shows this most recently, like this last year, actually at our home show in Manhattan. Why are you in the water dish? You just shed. Shouldn't need to shed. Was, of course, this little guy here, who is doing wonderful and growing well. And that is, of course, our Suma male. He's awesome. And we were talking about payment plans. It is much harder to get a payment plan at a show for obvious reasons. They want to sell it, they want it to go away. And this snake is in shed, and it's going to bite the crap out of me. Right in the face, huh? You're going to come out of there. I'm going to win this. Don't open your mouth at me like that. Haha, I win. So here's another one we picked up at a show. And of course, this is our, let's see here, Asphalt Yellow Belly Pastel, I believe is the name in this. And this was one that camera guy Kurt wanted. So we knew going into the show we wanted both this and the Suma, and we were able to find both. Now this one is in shed. You can see its eyes are in blue, and that is why it's so damn angry. So we better put it back. Get in there. Because it tried to bite me in the dang face. It'll calm down once its skin is off, I promise. But that is some of the things that we picked up at shows. Yeah, that's normal, I'd say. I mean, once they start locking, a lot of them eat like horses, but once they start building follicles, they tend to slow down. One thing you can do is switch to a smaller meal. Right now, I've got a few girls that have decided to start murdering their large meals and leaving them for me because they're too big, so I have to go down to a small meal for those breeder females, try to squeeze another meal or two in them. And then they'll probably shut down completely. But that is kind of par for the course. But those were what we bought at shows this year. And do you guys enjoy? Uh, yeah, we're not actually going that route with everything. You know, everyone wants to do panda pieds with those sumas, and I guess they're suma pieds. But we're actually working something different with those. I got some plans for those. I do. You want to see his first girlfriend next year? Girlfriend number one for him will be this girl right here. Female banana. I want mahogany bananas. I want to go to a super mahogany banana. That's one thing we're working at. Again, trying to get to that all purple. So that's one of the routes I'm going to go. That's awesome. The reptile house, we just did a video on it. It's coming along great. You know, really good. Really good. Get bit on camera. I try not to, you know, and I've had people like, oh, this guy is all worried about being bit. He's this and that and blah, 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 blah. And it's not that I'm worried about being bit. It's not that getting bit does major damage. And we've shown pictures of me getting bit before, and it's no big deal. But the thing people have to remember is, and I think I missed the question, so you may have to recite it for me there, David, is when you get bit, there's a good chance that snake's going to break teeth. I've had it happen in me. And, well, I can get them out of me, no problem. That opens up chances to infection in the mouth. So a lot of problems can happen from them breaking teeth. Is it likely? No, they break them in the wild too. But I prefer them not to break teeth or have that extra risk because of my hand. So if I can avoid being bit, it's actually better for them. Not just me, it's better for them. I also keep a lot of venomous reptiles. When you keep a lot of venomous reptiles, you start getting to that mindset of, I'm not going to get bit. I'm not going to get bit. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that, blah, blah, blah. And that's why. So 3 weeks before ovulation, and that's normal. I mean, after ovulation, they're not going to eat. So back to the light switch. Thank you. We thought we were doing something kind of fun. I mean, it was kind of a goofy take on this old house where you catch me working, you know. If you look really close, you'll notice that the screwdriver I was using didn't even have a bit in it. Sad, right? That was all just kind of the preparation. I have since used the screwdriver and finished that light socket and added about 3 others, though. Along with a few other projects and a few more things that we're sealing up and just things we're doing. On a suitable male, clown. Definitely something with clown. Visual clown male. That way you're going to get all clowns and het clowns and no possible hets. I hate possible hets. I make them all the time, but I hate them because, you know, either you're getting rid of something that's really good or I just hate dealing with them. It's running. It's running like now. It doesn't have everything in it. It has my rattlesnakes in it, and you know, but it's running. We actually have the first person who's supposed to stay in there in March. Now, will it be finished? No, there's a difference in finished and running. Kind of like my zoo. You know, our reptile zoo in Manhattan, Kansas is open. It opened February 1st. It's open. You can pay. You can go through it. You can see it. Is it completely done? No, we still have a solid concrete floor. We need to finish the floor. We still want to replace the door. We still have a few cages needing finished, but you know, it's 85% of the way there, so it's open to the public. Kind of the same with the reptile house. Oh, Samantha, if you're on our Patreon, you don't need permission to quote unquote bug me. That's what it's for. You're there, you can message me, and I will get to it. There's a lot of things I got to do today. I have a lot of running around to do. I wanted to do this morning because this afternoon I got to go handle some financial crap on the business and get some of that taken care of. I need to go check on the zoo and see how that's going and make sure everything's going okay there. And then I need to slide over to the reptile house. I need to do a little work over there. And then I'm supposed to meet Question Girl for dinner with a few of our friends. We're planning our trip to Vegas here in a few weeks. So, yeah, and then my work week starts. So, I also need to do some computer work at some point in this week to get my files caught up and my ship list caught up so I can, my ship list caught up just to be on top of everything. It is definitely okay. It doesn't matter. I don't care what level you're on. you know. Uh, and that's the thing too for anybody who's thinking about joining. It's not like, I mean, we have different levels and there's different benefits to each level for sure, but it's not like that if you're on one of the lower levels and we're like, I don't have time for you. No, the whole point of it is to have time for people, and that's why it's capped, is so we'll never get it so big like here where I don't have individual time for people. Venomous snakes in the zoo right now, David, they're all going to be, uh, with a few exceptions, they're all going to be rattlesnakes. There's, well, there will be here very, very soon. I just got to move the one I went over. A prairie rattlesnake. There are a lot of western diamondbacks. There is a timber, and with westerns, there's a bunch of different morphs of western. A lot of my western collection is there. There is a copperhead and a cottonmouth. That's what's in there. And then there's a monocle cobra. I forgot about that. And then there's some Gila monsters, venomous lizards, not snakes. As we finish a few things, it'll allow us to do more. I mean, the cobra was a rescue situation. We have an exception on it that will allow us to get other animals. We'll add things like, probably gaboons and rhinos, some squams, and some other things. One really cool tree viper cage will be kind of awesome. So those are the things that's going to be happening in there as time moves forward. But good. I'm glad you love your shirt. That's the whole point of it. It's so, but right now you have several albino Western diamondbacks. You have a couple of our red Westerns, not the female. The female's so cranky. I keep her here because I'm worried she'll break her face. And she, unfortunately, or how do you want to look at it, she's the best looking one of the three, but the other ones definitely have a red tint to them. And then we have our caramel albinos there, our purple hazes there, all kinds of stuff. Ah, Alex, buckle up. That's the advice I have for you. It's bumpy. It's bumpy. That first clutch for me was really bumpy. There's going to be highs and lows, pits and valleys. Just stick with your dreams. Stick with it. Grind, 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 and it's going to be there. Oh, my coworkers think I'm crazy. It's funny. I used to catch more crap from my coworkers than I do now. And part of the reason I don't catch as much now is, anybody can go on Social Blade and they can see what this can do. Then they can also look, I mean, our Patreon's exposed. If you look at it, it shows exactly what the income is there. We wanted to be upfront and we wanted to be, say what we're doing. They've seen that we've added a second house that we're now moving animals into, which is also an investment in property that, is paid for by our hobby. And now the attitude's kind of starting to change. Like, oh, that's, at first they're like, oh, ha ha ha, you're an idiot. You think you're going to make money on snakes and you think you're going to make money on reptiles and you're on like YouTube and this and that. Well, and in fact, we don't have to put the money in our pocket. This is retirement plan for us. So, yeah, basically I've told them to suck it. That's a pretty good analogy. Not all of them. There are some, I mean, I say that, but there are some that were supportive from the word go and said, man, I think this is a good idea. But there were some that, yeah, absolutely. If in back channels and back circles and like snicker, snicker, snicker. Well, you know what? One of the reasons that the money I did get from it, we do keep very little money from our business, me and Kurt each. And one of the things I did was buy a car with mine. And the reason I wanted to buy the car with it, I could have bought the car myself, But then when people give me crap, I could be like, well, it's paying for that out there. That's how it started. And it was, oh. And then it kind of stopped that and made me curious. So it's kind of fun. Well, that's why we wanted to kind of move it around, Matt, and also because just I had so much crap going on today, I had to move it around. All right, so any more questions about shows? Do you guys want to know what it's like from the vendor experience? And if you haven't vended and you have questions about vending or about what I think about vending the show, now's the time to ask me. I will be upfront with you. There are people who have way more experience on shows than I do because we've gone to several shows. I think I've helped do a Tinley show. I've done multiple Kansas City shows, everything like that. How do you even start? Well, the thing is, plan for it. One, I think it is important to make your table look good, and vending is fun. I think it's fun. To bend on a listed price, and Justin, that's going to be different. Let me get to the first one first, and then we'll kind of get to the next one. Otherwise, I lose track. So the first was, how do you even start? One of the first things I purchased was a really bitchin' tablecloth. I went locally, I had it made, it's custom, and that way, there was something on there that had my name on it and looked good. And then bought some displays. They weren't the mainstream. I think they're ones off of. They're actually really nice. I still use them, and I've got some of the mainstream ones I bought. Use them very cheap. You guys have to figure that out. And so got some displays. And you could do the deli cups. That's why I was curious. Is maybe I overspent on that. Maybe I was over worried about that. Bought some lights, like just some work lights, or some not work lights, but like they were simple. They kind of go onto a table like a desk light and put like 3 or 4 of them up, and boom, you're set up. And then I picked a show close to me and bought a ticket. It was like $100. I think my first one was probably the Manhattan show here, and then the Kansas City show afterwards. And I also kind of ran my expenses, so I didn't count expenses as far as my tablecloth and displays and whatnot. I knew I spent on that stuff. But that's really not a every show expense. It's a one-time expense I got to make back, right? And so then I look at my expenses at a show. Okay, how much is it going to cost me to get there? Am I going to need to get a hotel to stay, or am I going to be able to come home? Is it a 1-day trip, 2-day show? What's it going to run me? How much is it going to cost me to get a table there? And then when I do that show, I look at how much did I make. Because if I spend my entire weekend and I go to a show and I sell some stuff and I don't even break even, then why the hell am I there? Like, how is that worthwhile? It may be better for me not to go back to that particular location. If I do well there, then I'm like, man, I should go back here. We made, enough money. If we take more animals or do whatever, have a better display, etc., we'll do better. So I always look at doing that because, well, it is fun. It is fun, Matt, but if you're going to be a business, you still got to think of it down to dollars and cents. Nobody likes thinking of dollars and cents, but it's very important. And trust me, Uncle Sam's going to think of your dollars and cents, so you have to keep track of that stuff. And so, and if I can choose between 2 shows, I'm going to make money here because of expenses. I'm going to lose money over here. I'm going to go over here, right? And then I go. Like, that's kind of the whole thing. It's really not that hard. It sounds daunting. And I also knew that for the first few times, I likely wasn't going to make as much money. And I kind of wrote those off as I kept close. I kept them low expenses. I kept them this and that because I didn't want to say, well, I'm going to go spend 2 days in Daytona Beach, Florida, and spend all this money doing it and then make a couple $100 and oh crap, I lost out. I knew it'd take a while to get my feet wet, to learn how to vend, how to talk to people, get comfortable with that. Didn't really take that long for me on that. But for Kurt, I love my buddy Kurt, but he'll tell you that's something he still struggles with. That's a hard transition for him. He's not an outgoing human being. So I'm going to sit there and be like, hey, how's it going? I want to show you these animals. That's difficult for him. So, it takes a while to kind of get your feet wet. That's how you get started. There is that concern. That is an excellent question. And it's 2 people basically hitting the mites on other breeders, and that's a concern. And it's a fine line. I'm a big believer that an animal in a person's hand helps them get attached to the animal, helps them sell an animal, helps that person wondering get into the hobby. And the sale I make today, especially if it's a first-time snake owner, is going to be 10, 15 sales for other people and myself down the road. So I do put snakes in people's hands. I do it a lot. I think it's very, very important. Now, that needs to be monitored. And do you run a risk of picking something up? Yeah, you do. Have I gone to a show and come home with a mites from somebody else before? Yeah, I have. You're going to do it. It's going to happen. I can think really clearly of one time it did happen, and I had a handful that I had to go through and do a bunch of treatment. It's part of the business, and that's unfortunate part of the business. But as people have gone to that, well, you can't touch my snakes until you bought them and it shores, and you could do that, but I think you'll sell less doing that. And honestly, if you catch mites early, like when you come back, you're expecting oh shit, and you treat it and you take care of it, it's not as huge of a deal as it's made to be. You'll have a small, I'll give you an example. Where is my spray? I love this product right here. This stuff is great. It's called Reptile spray. Okay, same bottle I've had forever. And Yeah. I want to avoid, everybody should avoid them, but I can tell you it's not always the seller because, I had one where I went to a show, I was mite free when I walked in, and by the time I left, because of people walking around dropping things, everybody at the show pretty much got some damn mites. And I know at least one snake I had sold ended up with mites from that show because of somebody else, and so I fixed it. They were understanding. I explained the whole situation. I actually sent them medication and I got it taken care of. And it was a really nice snake. It was a high end animal, And so what I would do is, let's say I come back and let's say this snake here ended up with mites. Woo, why are we angry today? Okay, for whatever reason, came back from a show, this snake ended up with mites. And I'd be like, crap. You check them fairly often, you're going to recognize that early. So then I treat that snake, right? I treat above it, I treat catty corner from it, I treat all around it. I treat that whole section. Even though those don't have it, I treat that whole section. And as long as I catch that early on, you're going to deal with it and you're going to fix it, okay? You just are. As long as you're up on it, it ain't that big of a deal to handle it. But I've seen collections where it never leaves too, but it never leaves, honestly, because of the treatment issues. IBD is scary, absolutely. IBD, this is why as soon as you see mites, you need to treat that. IBD is most likely spread by mites. I've heard people think maybe it's airborne. Most research I've read leads to blood mites being the spreader of IBD. So treating that is very, very important. And and every time I set up a new tub, too, I spray it down. Even though there's no mites, right? I spray it down. I treat everything fairly frequently, and that's just me. And we don't have a mite issue because of that. There's honestly, I would take a respiratory infection every day over IBD. IBD is a death sentence. I mean, they're going to die when they get that. You're not going to fix it. Respiratory infection can be fixed, can be treated, you can move on. There's several different treatments. There's some homeopathic treatments. There's some vapors people use, and there's some injections you can use as well. So we've been very, very fortunate to pretty much avoid respiratory or avoid full-blown respiratory. I've had a few that I hear wheeze, I think, was starting, and I just kind of kick up the heat and get it taken care of. And I'd say IBD is not that common, Lindsay. I think I've seen one case of it. And I was looking at a guy's collection. He pulled it out. Oh, look, this guy IBD. I'm like, holy shit, what are you doing? And IBD is inclusion body disease or body disorder, something of that nature. And his whole back half was a slinging lethargic mess, and it was dying. So, of course, I go home and I scrub myself with basically bleach. And yeah, it was terrifying. So, and that was like years and years ago. IBD can be carried in boas, and boas that can set dormant in forever. But I did freak. It was like touch nothing in there and get out and treat it like DEFCON 5. But it's a death sentence in pythons. It's just going to ravage through them. And then, if you have IBD, and I'd say IBD is probably more common than we realize, because if a breeder gets it, he ain't going to talk about it. Not in this day and age. And if I had IBD, and I never have, and let's say this snake here had IBD. Oh, you just shed. Good girl. Good girl. Let's say the snake here had IBD, and you can see she doesn't. She's fine. But let's say she did. If I didn't have mites, this snake would pass away, and that would be the end of it, right? And it'd be done. There'd be no more issue. But if I had mites, and I didn't treat mites, then that IBD would go all through my collection. If I had mites, I treated through here, like I would normally do if I did have something. I took care of it, or maybe there's a few that got over here and here, but we stopped it to this section. Then I would also limit IBD to just this section. But even this section of snake, and this is why IBD is so scary. Let me just give you that hypothetical I just showed, put that on there. And let's say that happened. This is a snake, so I would have lost if that was IBD, a breeder pinstripe. That would have sucked. Now, if we'd had a small mite, but we were treating it, at least treating it and taking care of it, we'd have lost a small pinstripe, or sorry, a breeder pinstripe, a breeder bumblebee, a breeder black pastel, a breeder pastel head exanthic, a breeder spider het true ghost. Wait, no, het snow. There's one David asked for. We'd have lost the darkness, who is get back in there. Who is a get in there? Who is a het true ghost? We would have lost my pastel exanthic female who's breeding this year, my Calitz female, and my champagne who's breeding this year. So the amount of loss would have been, we'd have lost thousands upon thousands of dollars due to one bad disease and mites. That's why IBD is terrifying. Of course, we didn't treat it. It goes through the whole rack system like crazy. So it is scary. It is scary. Our eye is terrifying, but you can, like I say, you can fix it. If you get IBD, honest to goodness, once you recognize it, the best thing for an animal is probably calling it. It's probably going to be putting it out of its misery. And that sounds so harsh, but it's going to prevent the spread of the disease, and it's going to prevent that animal having a slow, suffering, painful death. It's just, IBD is horrid. So anyway, there's that. But the fortunate thing is, I don't see it very often anymore. I don't hear people anymore, but I don't know if that's just because it doesn't happen that frequently, or people just don't talk about it. Jesse, the thing is, I typically wait for at least two things, and it's not a time period. It is, I want to see them eat 3 times on their own, no assist feeding, them just taking meals. I also want to see them gain to it where they're at least 80 grams. So if they've done both of those, then they're ready to go. If they haven't done one or the other, then I go ahead and hold them and keep them for a bit. Even if you have a snake that's eating and it's eating good and it's eating 3 or 4 meals and it's at 70 grams, I found that even though it's doing great, it doesn't look as healthy because it's so small. And it's probably not going to sell as well. Now, have I fudged on that before to make sure because I couldn't fill a display? Yeah, I have. I've also filled displays of animals that aren't for sale because I didn't have enough to fill displays. But in general, and I would say that's a good rule of thumb. 3 meals, at least 80 grams. And you're going to be doing good. So, just kind of the way it goes. See if you can find that. Oh, you didn't eat that. That's strange. Which is probably something about like this. The snake here is about what you're looking for at that point. It's probably close to 80 gram mark, maybe a little over. Let's find out. And so if you saw this on the table, it looks pretty good, right? So that's kind of what you're looking for. And I'll tell you the weight on it here in just a second. It is 103 grams. So right there, boom. And that is not a Mojave. It's actually a lesser. That one is 18,1206. Now we'll sell them on Patreon as soon as they're born. We don't ship them until they hit those, and of course they come with the guarantee that if something happens, get in your cage, pain in my butt, then we refund it. So it's safe. That's way harder to do at shows. Probably going to be at Denver, and I would imagine I'm kind of torn between going to Repticon again, because Repticon has been so good to me, or Reptilian Nation, because I've heard such good things, but we will likely be back at Denver again. So, Seattle, holy crap, Seattle's like the furthest away it could possibly be, like, because Kansas, Seattle, New York, so... eventually, Jeff, but it's going to be a while. I mean, you guys got to remember, I have a day job. And for me to start hitting that, those Seattle and Pomona shows and those East Coast shows. Now, Florida's on the table because my brother lives in Florida, so I can really cut expenses. But it has to be, one, I have to have the time to do it, which is hard right now because I work a day job. And 2, I would have to be at a point in our production or notoriety that I could go there and it could be profitable enough for me to go there. And if those things happen, yeah, I'd love to. The idea of being able to travel around and do this is really exciting to me. So we want to get there. So do you guys have any other questions about shows? We covered how to start it. And we got time for just a couple more questions about shows from a vendor standpoint, and we'll go from there. Uh, just because we might end up doing that in March, actually. Probably not. Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. No promises. Uh, there you go. Snow this year. Oh, the show. How do you heat the display? You don't. I know some people have. I mean, but usually if you've got lights overhead, they're putting on enough heat that they're going to be a little bit warmer than room temp. And most of those reptile shows are pretty warm because of the fact that there's so many people in there. They know it's a reptile show, so typically you don't have to heat displays. Now, depending on where you're at, like one year in Denver, it was so cool that I ended up bringing those snakes home with me, or not home with me, to somebody else's home where I was staying because of that, because I didn't trust they'd keep it warm enough in there overnight. But and I do price myself. I don't, but other people's prices do make a difference in that. Now I'm not going to match prices just because I feel like I have to. And if somebody's got some ridiculously stupid low price on the table because they don't know how to sell animals, and they want, because people will do that. They'll be like, well, I don't want to talk to people, so I'm just going to price this so cheap. It'll just sell. I can just sit here. I'm not going to match that. I mean, that's ridiculous. But I do kind of keep an eye on prices because prices fluctuate. And sometimes I'm higher, sometimes I'm a little lower. It just depends. And it depends on the snake too. A perfect example is like Orange Dream. Could I sell my Orange Dream for as much as say Ozzy Boyd sells his? Probably not, because he's the original name in Orange Dream. He's the first guy. He's got some of the nicest Orange Dreams on the planet. He knows his shit when it comes to Orange Dream, right? So I probably can't do as well with Orange Dream as say he could. Could I do better with Xanthic than a lot of people? Absolutely. Absolutely I can. Because again, I know what I'm looking for, I know what I'm holding back, I know what I'm doing. That's what my passion was from the beginning. And there are other people like that too. JD Constriction. His Xanthic is going to cost more than most people's, but you're going to get what you're paying for a lot of times. For a J-Time Mojave, man, those have been all over the map. I think last season they were going for around 350, 400 if memory serves, but I'm just going by memory. So we didn't buy one. We wanted to make one. Yeah, sometimes. When I went to Chicago, our animals stayed overnight. In Daytona, people kept their animals overnight. I don't think we had a table. We went to Daytona. Uh, so yeah, it's very common that the animals do stay overnight in the venue, and they have security, and they keep the temperature warm. And you got to remember, I mean, well, 90 degrees is the ideal hot spot for a ball python. If we spend a couple days at 70, and then we're back on our normal, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's actually better for it to be a little cool than too hot. Too hot, you can start frying brain cells, right? Too cold, as long as you don't get too cold, you're going to be okay. If you're too cold all the time, consistently for weeks, like if your heat's off or a mess, you're going to open things up like our eye. You're going to open your cells up to more frequent regurgitation. But just talking a couple days for show, you're going to be fine. It's just like shipping an animal, right? That's a good purchase. Because see, and Justin Koblika, he's going to be able to get more for his pied stuff than a lot of other people because he's so focused on pied. So I think it depends on, matching price depends on what the animal is and who you are. Now, that being said, if I'm selling for this and somebody comes up and is like, hey, well, that table over there has got it for this, and we're close, and I need to, there's always some room there sometimes, and King we did, but we're actually talking about a topic today. We show snakes on every video we do. But it's going to depend, like on how close that is, whether or not I want to match that price, whether or not, I really want to sell that animal. It's just kind of one of those things, right? And go for it, Alex. That was kind of what we did, you're talking about exactly kind of what our plan was. Whenever we started our YouTube channel was from the beginning. Now, we didn't start it from a hobbyist standpoint. I already had snakes for a while, right? But go for it. I think, and maybe it'll grow, maybe it'll surpass ours. Hell, I don't know, and maybe it won't. I honestly don't know. But what I can tell you is it's a huge marketing tool when it comes to sales. And even when we were much smaller than we are now, we would go to shows and people would be like, hey, I've seen you before. And that would really help break that ice and get that sale. So starting something like that is great. Uh, it's great. So, and it's okay to be nervous. Shit, you go back and you watch our first videos and listen to me talk. I'm not a nervous human being, but you could still hear it a little bit. So, on how to market, oh man, marketing in the beginning is going to be, shows are a great way to market. Shows put your name out there. There's guys who are known just because they go to all the shows. Uh, so definitely do that. If you're just talking to one or two clutches and you're not going to be able to really go to shows and sell that, man, your local Facebook, Craigslist, all of that is going to be a big way. And then, as much as I hate to say it, try to be active, but be positively active in like groups online. Don't be an asshole like 90% of the people in Facebook want to be, but try to be active on a positive nature online, and that will help. Put up some ads on Morph Market. People are doing that now a lot, and that will help. Will help. 2-day shows are usually a little more, Eric. That's typically for a 1-day show. 2-day shows, you're going to probably pay a little more for a table, depending on who the vendor or the promoter is. But those are some of the ways I would suggest to market yourself. You know about selling this part of that. And that happens, but there are times that, if you breed animals, and you sell animals, and you breed them at a fairly large number, you're always going to wonder, Nothing makes me happier like when I get people on Patreon who like post pictures of the animals I sold them. I see they're doing great. I'm like, yeah, I feel good, But you're always going to wonder. And now, would I refuse a sale in the right circumstances? Sure, I would. If you got somebody that's completely clueless and just doesn't seem to give a crap, then yeah, you can refuse that sale. You have that right to do it. But yeah, man, it's hard to do too. Like, and just because they're not knowledgeable, but they're trying to get the knowledge and they're asking questions. I had a great example last week to Denver. I had a kid who really wanted a snake, and his dad didn't know nothing about snakes. Right? Dad's like, here, but his dad was willing to ask the questions with the kid to make sure the kid had the knowledge and make sure and learn. And then I kind of gave him a shopping list. Right? I'm like, well, this is what you need, right here, and we were just talking like a normal ball python, I think. I'm like, these are the things you're going to need for it. Here's what to do. As a matter of fact, there's a guy over there selling those. There's a guy where you have 2 options right here at the show. And they went right at the show. And they bought the full kit. Then they came back to pick up the animals. I set it aside for them. They went and got the full kit, brought the full kit back, got the animal, and out the door they went. I feel good about that sale. I know they don't have a lot of knowledge, but neither does anybody when they first get started. But yet they were willing to try to get it right there. They were willing to try to get the right equipment right there, and did. They were to the point that they bought one of the pre-made kits. They bought better litter for it. They bought they bought better stuff to go in the pre-made kit that was already set up off our recommendations instead of the aspen and things like that. They went with the coconut. They were trying to do the right thing. And at that point in time, I feel like that snake is probably going to have a pretty good life, So I don't feel bad about making a sale like that. Now, if somebody just wants it, like, they don't want to learn it, they're like, I'm just going to throw it in a box and never even look at it again. Yeah, but that's pretty rare. That's definitely, I say, pretty rare. I don't think it's annoying to them, Lindsay. Maybe if you're talking about a huge, massive breeder, they're like, oh, well, I have no time for this. But I think most of them, the vast majority, are going to be happy to hear that. I want to know that, one, when I do, the animals are appreciated. 2, that they're in a good home, and 3, that they're making people happy. And if that's happening, then I feel good. So I get those updates. I feel really good about it. It's one of the highlights that happen. I'm like, oh, that's cool, So keep doing that. People definitely prefer it. So all right, guys, we have been here for almost right at an hour, actually. So we're probably going to end up having to hop off of here and slide over to Patreon and say hi to those folks for a bit. And then I got to go start getting work done. So, oh, that's awesome. Perfect. And sometimes it takes a bit, but I'm glad to hear that they're doing that. So, It's awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get to this next Monday. We'll catch you next week.